Mama, I got bad news, bad news. I've been rolling with some bad dudes, bad dudes. I've been trying to get a bag too,
Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Ashes to Awesome podcast, Rising in Recovery. Our podcast provides light, hope, and understanding about addiction and mental health to those living within that life and the people who love them. This episode is brought to you by Together We Can, where Canada recovers from addiction. That's twcrecoverylife.org. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another edition of the Kaleidoscope Wednesday on the Ashes to Awesome podcast. I'm your host, Chuck LaFlange, and today joining me in virtual studio is Ryan Bathgate for our third part in a three-part series about connection. How you doing today, Ryan?
I'm pretty good, Chuck. Yeah, life's good, man. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm going on vacation here in a couple days again, and then it's like, this is the one where I have to like rest, relax, because the grind from September to next summer is a real thing,
Yeah.
No, things are well, man.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. All right. So back to the connection. So today, you want to give us an idea of what you want to talk about, and to finish off the series.
Yeah, I think like just like in the chronological order of things, I think it's what we've done is we've taken a interactive process of evolution, personal self-evolution, and broken it into three different kind of phases.
Okay.
And so in the first phase, we kind of looked at like the paradox, and paradox is essential in order to be able to understand really anything. And I keep going back to that saying that life implies death, light implies dark, wet implies dry. We can't have one without the other. We can't have an understanding of one without an understanding of the other. The basic, yeah. I guess, the most common would be yin and yang. Everybody understands what that is, right?
Yeah.
And so like, so we talked about what loneliness is, which is what I think connection implies.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really, we really delved into what that looks like. We went into kind of how that paradigm shift starts to happen when we start to realize that loneliness is not a state of being I want to exist in for any time, but I do realize it's important for me to be able to understand what the other side of that is. I mean, my goal here is to be as human as possible, as comprehensive in that humanity as possible, and understanding that from a core of me, so that I can take that and use it for self-evolution and connection, especially against the midst of like social programming and the elements of shame and disconnection.
So, just for a very kind of obvious example to that, I guess, but maybe not so obvious to people that haven't been through it. For me personally, that lack of connection, and I've said it many times on the show, is the kind of the boot on my neck for the last couple of years in addiction, right? So now, the way I appreciate connection is a totally different world. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And that's just it. You nailed it. Like, without an understanding, you're always like, oh, I wish I could have done this differently. But like, dude, if I could have done my life the way I planned to do it, I would probably be on my third marriage, rich as hell, and such a douchebag.
And fifth girlfriend, right?
Yeah, totally. Like
fifth mistress. Yeah, I should say, yeah.
It's just, I'm glad things didn't go the way that I was planning on things going. But I needed to go through some dark times to get to any understanding who I wanted to be in the world. So like, so I guess the paradox. Just to wrap up that explanation of the series. So in part 2, we talked about how that shifts and how we turn and start to like embody things like hope and the importance of hope and understanding what love is and understanding what joy is, and we don't understand any of that really without understanding the other side, what it implies.
Absolutely.
And so paradox is absolutely essential. I think I don't know if you're familiar with a guy named Carl Jung.
No.
He was a therapist back in the day, kind of a Freudian disciple that went rogue. And he is the first one to talk about metaphysics or spirituality within psychodynamics. Okay. And so in those days, they thought he was crazy, and it turns out that actually he was really accurate and is way ahead of his time. And so he has a saying that says that the paradox is one of our most valuable spiritual possessions. Only paradox comes anywhere near to comprehending the fullness of life. That's a Carl Jung quote.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So
essentially exactly what we were just saying.
Exactly what we were just saying. So paradox is it's an appearance of contradiction between two related components. So like I said, I don't understand the true meaning of light without darkness.
Yeah.
So I don't understand the true meaning of connection without loneliness.
Yeah.
And so today I just want to talk about like the anatomy of connection. Like, what is it? What is it comprised of? What does it feel like? And so I think, first and foremost, I think we need to lean into, I guess, the problem is that loneliness, it changes who we are as a being. So when we get into this phase of transition, it's because we've come to a place that the only thing at times we have left is hope.
Okay.
And I think that, hope is such a big deal because, we can't, it's at the core of everything. We have to have some sense of belief in ourselves and what we're trying to accomplish in life in order to understand what hope really means to us. And so
that's at the end of the show, the monologue, the exit monologue, right? That's what that is entirely,
exactly.
100%. That's what that's about, right? Is that little glimmer of hope, and it might just be the only thing somebody's got. Right?
And you say it. You're right. You say it at every show. Yeah. And like we need hope, like we need air. It is such an essential part of existence. And so I think like let's look at that for a second. What is hope?
Well, I wouldn't know how to define it. That's your job.
You know what? Like I don't know if I know how to completely define it as well. But I know it's about self-worth. It's about self-esteem. It's about a sense of belonging.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like it's really easy to make it actionable because, let's just take our place of the depths of loneliness and we're in this transition. The first thing we do is we get the courage to get on board and on the table that maybe life can be different. Maybe things can be different. Now I understand the depths of loneliness. I understand struggle. So then we just set little goals like, I don't know, man, making my bed every day was my first goal I ever had to make myself a better person. And I call those the micro movements, right? So we set goals that are attainable and we knock them down. I'm going to get to the gym today. I'm going to do my best to eat well today. I'm going to do my best to make smiles contagious today. You know what I mean? And then they are, right? And so then we start developing these pathways of hope as we knock down these little goals, and then so our understanding of our own consciousness starts to expand outside of the darkness of the of loneliness. And so as I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about going through this process, I realize that we need courage because we got to face shame.
Yeah.
We have to access transparency and vulnerability, but with that, we find this sense of like authenticity that is just something we've never experienced before. It's a new freedom that we just didn't even know existed. And so, like to be in this, contradiction or paradox, to understand hope, we need to understand hopelessness. You know what I mean? Like, because and so like it's kind of all snowballs together. But we have to have the courage to be able to step out, and be able to like not choose comfort over courage. Yeah. Right. And I think that's really important because everything starts with bravery and how we and how we do that, and like so like in order for me to be vulnerable, I'm gonna have to have courage. That's a fact. Yeah. Like in order for me to be, I can have hope without courage, but it'll never be actionable. Yeah. Right. You know what I mean? I'll just be a dreamer. And like hopelessness and despair, man. I mean, it's a tough place to be, but it's a beautiful happening when we use it to propel ourselves into whatever that next dimension of existence is for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I think like, so I think when we look at like, we go from that place in the middle, scared and worried, and like, I don't know what's going to happen next. And then we find like we knock these goals down and we start to create almost a sense of humbleness, transparency. We find out who we are in those moments of tension. And so this is, I think, where like almost at a left. I don't know about you, but at a left field for me, I was so shocked at how much love there is in the world when I started to step out of that. When I opened my heart to vulnerability,
Right.
you know, and like,
I talk about this often. I just talked about it the other day in I don't know. I don't know. It had come up in some sort of post I'd written or whatever. We surround ourselves. I'd shared somebody from your part of the world had shared one of our episodes. Can't remember his name. Anyway, it's on the Facebook page. It was just somebody doing something really nice for a guy that he's buying him a bike. Because that right, and I spoke to it in there and said, you surround yourselves in these people that are desperate and doing desperate things, and your view tends to get skewed really fast, right? But then you come out of that, you step away from that and into, for instance, I came back to Calgary. I've got my support network. I've got you guys, everything that's happening, and all of a sudden you understand that the world is actually a pretty great place, and that most people are genuinely loving creatures.
right? And it's like,
so yeah.
isn't that such a shock though? When you come from like, and I know like when we're kids, like we're the love is everywhere. It's almost taken for granted, and as the world turns, we start to get hardened by the hurt side of love, the pain side of love, and that becomes like like touching the hot stove. We don't want to do that again. Like, ouch, that hurt. Well, and that's not really the reality of it. I mean, love is it is the thing that makes this world go round. And we said it so many times, but I think it's also important in this process to talk about how do we make ourselves lovable. Again, the fourth component, and I think that has a real strong attachment to our sense of belonging.
Yeah.
Okay, so my belief in myself is directly correlated to the strength of my belonging. Does that make sense? So confidence,
Absolutely
those intrinsic resources, you know what I mean?
Of course it does.
And wherever those things aren't, where love and belonging aren't, when they're not there, you can guarantee there's suffering there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know how to be poor and I know pain. Those are the two. If there's anything in this world that I have a lot of practice at, it's
PhD, yeah,
exactly. Unofficial. I'm gonna write my own. I'll get my daughter to write me one up with crayons. And so belonging. I mean, again, it takes belonging is part of how we find our authentic self. And if we put that in concert with an understanding of our value system, if we put that and then add our feeling of like the cosmic alignment or rhythm, when we have all of that stuff together, that makes this like incredible cocktail. Finally, a good cocktail of openness and connection. Now I'm connectable, and so what did I say? Our sense of self-worth is directly correlated to belonging, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And I think there's another element there now that I'm sitting in that space, and I think like there's an element of self-acceptance that is also. So I think it's a three-headed little cocktail.
Okay.
Okay. So like and it's really simple. Like self-acceptance. I am bald, but that is not who I am. You know what I mean? That's a part of me, but it's not who I am. I'm not really incredibly fast anymore. Just little things. All these things that I could take and make insecurities and blow them up into like I'm not good enough. Let shame come in. I don't have to do that as long as and now I'm just like as I'm processing this, my level of self-acceptance is also directly correlated to my level of shame resilience.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Of course it does. Yeah.
Okay. So have we even defined connection yet?
I think it's not going to hurt to do it again.
Okay.
That was that's a lot of recording between me and now.
And I'm asking you a question, and then you've done 15 shows in between our last recording. Yeah, sorry, man. I should not very understanding of your. And by the way, like I don't know, for all you listeners, I hope we have a moment of appreciation for Chucky because he does a lot of work on this. He does a lot of work. I mean, I'm doing this thing yesterday where I'm like messing around with TikTok, and it took me like I couldn't figure out how to like get this link to go over here. And like I was like, oh my god, I'm so frustrated right now, and I've been at this for 10 minutes. I can't even imagine what your 16-hour day looks like. Like
Actually,
it's crazy.
It was funny, and it gives me a chance now. I was by the time you're listening to this, I will have been on the Hard Knocks talk show Sunday previous to this, right? So he yesterday we went to go do our initial, the thing that you do at the beginning. You've been on the show yourself, right? What was that?
Yeah.
About a month ago now, something like that, right?
I think it was a while ago. Great show. It's a great show. I absolutely love that show.
Yeah. So check that out, guys. But he does this thing, to do the promo where he cuts video and all that, and you understand, right? You got to give him that. So we went to go do that yesterday morning, and everything blew up. Everything blew up, right? And the level of zen from him, right? He's just like, yeah, man, this is the way things go, right?
Yeah.
Put things in perspective. I get stressed out, and I'm doing everything I can. This guy's running a live show. Can you imagine the shit show? Sorry for my language. Can you imagine the insanity that happens? You hear me. You read my texts when I'm working these and editing. I can't imagine doing what he does over there. So,
I know it's crazy. Like, the struggle is real, people. Okay, so listen, I want to throw a little. We're gonna throw down a definition of connection right now, just so we can say yes, we have defined connection. I mean, we define everything else, but
yeah.
Okay, so connection, I think it forms as an energy, and it has to imply another, so it's transactional, right?
Yeah.
So within that transaction, within that medium, we need to. It's the four tenets. We need to be seen. We need to be heard. We need to feel loved. And we need to feel lovable.
You love to feel lovable. Sorry.
Yeah, right. Which really means like that encompasses the comprehension of being valued and valuable.
Yeah.
Right.
I speak about that one often, and sorry to interrupt you again, Ryan.
Of course not.
That the feeling lovable is by far the most important and by far the hardest one to do. When it's tough, right? So that's
totally, man. And like, so like, I don't know about you, but as soon as like, I need to not feel judged.
Yep.
In connection. Mm-hmm. So like that is a safety piece that I need.
Now that you've said that, yeah, I never would have verbalized it like that, but bang on. Yeah.
If I'm judged, man, my walls are up, and I'm defensive. I'm shut down. Or else I put on an ego or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely,
whatever it takes. Yeah. And then I think we walk away with a sense of strength and sustenance, in whatever that connection is.
Okay.
So I guess our definition is now. Are you hearing that?
I heard something.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Our definition is an energy that exists between two people that is non-judgmental and is comprised of being heard, being seen, being loved, feeling lovable, and walking away feeling valuable. So it includes a vulnerability. Connection has a vulnerability, and if you think about it, like turning a water spout on or off. When we turn the water spout on, we make that pipe vulnerable to the flow of water. When we turn it off, it obviously disconnects. So I guess maybe it's helpful to look at what the disconnection is if we're going to talk about what implies what.
And now for a quick public service announcement. Today's PSA is brought to you by Yacha Treatment Centers in Phuket, Thailand. They are a clinic run by clinicians, not a business run by businessmen. And they know that where addiction is the smoke, trauma is the fire. Learn more at yatracenters.com. That's yatracentre.com.
Hi everybody, this is Carl with today's public service announcement about naloxone, or, as it's more commonly known, Narcan, a medication that can help save the life of somebody experiencing an opioid overdose. Did you know that in 2021 opioids were responsible for over 7,000 deaths in Canada and 106,000 deaths in the United States? These numbers are staggering, but there is hope. Narcan is a medication that can reverse the effects of an opioid overdose and help save a life. Narcan is available for free at participating pharmacies and harm reduction centers across Canada and is also available without a prescription at most pharmacies in the United States. Now I know most of you won't be around people using opioids, but you never know when it will be around you. and you could save the life of someone who is loved and who loves.
So disconnection is feeling judged, social exclusion, isolation, and ironically enough, disconnection lives within the same area in our brain as rejection and pain.
Yeah, well, makes sense to me.
Yeah, and so we experience it as an almost an evolutionary reactive state. That's why when we have disconnection, we if you think about when you're in the throes of addiction, there's very little sense of who you are in the world.
Yeah,
very we're talking like isolation at its premium, where and so we're not actually able to access our own identities. We're not able to create goals. We're not able to harbor these things, and like any sense of joy we have is usually synthetic. And that's why we keep coming back. So, so in order to like sustain the idea of what connection is and how it works and how we keep it going on our day-to-day life, the components are like the intrinsic resources of self-worth, self-esteem, self-respect. And so like to feel secure within ourselves is absolutely essential. And when we're secure, we're feeling, we're open to the world. When I have high level of confidence, your judgment is my choice.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
I can choose what I take personal or not when I'm in a connectable state, which means I don't need to turn the tap off. It just means that like I don't have to let that become part of the flow of our connection.
Yes.
It's just like your judgment's not. It's your opinion. You can have that. It's not part of my reality. And I think I think there's an important element of like accepting our own fallibility, our own humanness. Like I said, dude, I'm bald. That's the way it is. And these days I'm all right with it. It took me a while. Like I wore a hat for a long time, but it took me a while to get to a place that was okay now. And we have all these insecurities, but those insecurities don't define us, and they're not an indictment of character ever. And so, but when I'm in a place of disconnection, those are an indictment. Those are an identity, and I can only see myself. And we look at like body dysmorphia, things like that. All I see in the mirror is my love handles. Well, I'm probably in a state of disconnection, and I'm probably experiencing loneliness to a high degree, and where I can't accept my own fallibility or my fallibility. And by doing that, because I don't own it, it owns me.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense to me. Yep.
And so I think I hate jumping back, but like, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you think that there is a sense of invisibility when it comes to loneliness?
I think for a lot of people there would be. What I'm trying to do is put myself back in those days of when I felt unbelievably and horribly lonely. But I think for somebody who's been in it for a lot longer than I was, most definitely, right? The longer you're in it, there's an answer. There's my answer. The longer you're in it, the more that sense of invisibility would take over. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right? So for somebody that's been on the street for 2 years, as compared to 6 months or 10 years, very different degrees of that feeling invisible, right?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think like when it becomes normalized, then it takes so much courage to muster the hope to be able to get that change. And this is why like the little glimmers of connection become so important, and just the little openings that happen little by little. And this is how we enter into that state of like self-evolution and becoming that the human being that we've always hoped we could be. And I think man, as long as we have hope, we have a chance. And I firmly believe that. And like even in hopelessness, because it implies the other, it means we have access to the other. So I don't think we ever really lose hope. Truly, I think that we can experience hopelessness without losing hope, just because one implies the other. If hopelessness exists, that means hope has potential.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then let's talk about how important that the element of what love is. So like, you know, and I keep that definition of love really simple, like the act of doing without expectation of return.
Okay.
And so like I used to practice this by just like holding a door open for somebody as they walk in. That's an act of love. Helping a lady across the street, or an elderly person or something. You know what I mean? Like just these
Yeah.
little acts of kindness. And so like I used to always in the treatment floor, I'd be like, you know, if you give your buddy a cigarette, that's an act of love. If you expect him to give you one back, that's not.
That's a transaction. That's
That's a
totally
transaction.
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't do nice shit for people because you want something back. Then it's not nice shit anymore. I've said that for years. Yeah. Right. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the more that we practice this art of cultivating love, the more we get a deeper sense of like its power through. So the more vulnerable I can be, the more access to love I can have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like to be seen deeply, and like you know, it's kind of an interesting new paradox in being, you know, doing the show and stuff, because we get seen by people that have no idea who we are all the time, and
Yeah.
like sometimes I have to muster a lot of courage up to be able to be seen deeply, and like, man, I am as fallible as we get. You know what I mean? Like I make mistakes like nobody's business. You know, and so. But by honoring that connection, by honoring that depth of being visible, being seen in a very authentic way, we're cultivating a sense of connection and love. And then it starts like, and it's like byproduct is like kindness and you know, respect, affection, which is a big one for me to learn.
Yep.
And it turns out now, like that's part of, you know, like my love language. You know what I mean? Like, and so I think the other thing we need to talk about love is like how it works, because it is transactional, and so it's almost like it completely turns like our understanding of economics on its head. You know, like,
Yeah.
and we're, you know, being capitalist society, we always think that if I give you this dollar, I lose a dollar. Love doesn't work like that, you know. So if I cultivate, the more love I cultivate, the more I get back. It's an organism that needs to be grown, to be nurtured.
Okay.
And so, and we do that, and it can only really happen in the medium of connection. So if we think about it, connection is the conduit, and love is what flows through it.
Okay.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. I like that. That's beautifully worded. Yeah.
And I think that the more we can appreciate and love ourselves, the stronger that and more abundant our ability to transactionally, or I shouldn't say transactionally. I think the more we're able to like give or grow with. You know,
Okay.
it's like, you know, like a vine, it grows. Love grows together, and it happens with the more people that we have it within ourselves, and then it grows out and intertwines with one another, and that's how we have this amazing network of connection throughout all, you know, 7.6 billion, I think 7.8 behind the times, billion people in the world. And you know, and then we and we're going to be constantly faced with, you know, shame is going to be knocking on the door all the time. We're going to experience hurt from betrayal or blame or disrespect or things like that, and like, so that's where like the stronger my love is, the more choice I have, which means the more freedom I have. So when, you know, when I can feel shame coming in, most of the time, sometimes it gets in without, because it's so insidious.
Pervasive, right?
Oh
It's
my
just-
God! Yeah,
right?
and like, so sometimes it gets in, but when I just need to shut my head off and go into my heart, and then I'm like, oh my God, shame's here. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so when we, and that can be really damaging, but the damages can actually become, you know, scars of existence that create strength. So it is a tension, but we have to know intrinsically who we are, and then have an understanding of these outside forces that come in, and really, you know, in my history, all of those things have made me shut that valve off, and not, and you know, it's like, yeah, nothing's getting in, but nothing's getting out, and so that's,
Yeah.
and what happens when that happens? I enter into isolation and loneliness, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that we can be survivors of pain in an effort to access a stronger sense of cultivating love through vulnerability, and then we experience like the beauty of like joy, and like because I think like joy is just it encompasses what love truly is.
Yeah.
And so, and then I can appreciate things like happiness. Like, I don't know about you, but I have rejected happiness in my life because I didn't feel like I deserved self-worth being loved.
I
You know
think
what I
that,
mean?
that understanding that takes a level of self-introspection that most people just don't. Well, I don't know about most people. That's tough to get to. Maybe that's a better way to put that, right? To really understand, right? Like to understand that, shit, did I actually do that? Right? I mean, that takes a level of self-understanding that most people, or a lot of people don't have.
But everybody's capable of.
Without a doubt. Yeah, and that's why I should have said it's harder to get to instead of most people.
It's a matter of practicing, like, you know what I mean? And like, like this is where I always want to caution, like having happiness as a goal. Happiness is usually conducive of environment, and it's an emotion, and it's going to change. And so I don't think we ever want to like I just want to be happy. Well, I don't just want to be happy. I want to be all of it. I want to be as human as possible. That's why I think there's a big difference between, the trait of peace and the emotion of happiness. So peace I can maintain at any time. And so when I'm in connection, I'm in peace. I can experience the other side of love, which is pain or betrayal and things like that, and still maintain a sense of peace. Like you were saying about Dan, like he still maintained peace in the midst of frustration.
Yeah,
like that is a massive. That is an indicator of a lot of self work happening, a lot of contentment, and so like that's more like where I want to be is feeling content and peaceful. Those two together, and being content is just like a feeling of completeness, of appreciation. The antithesis of shame, which is to feel like I am enough and I am capable. And so and what comes along with that is just like, and so when I have peace and contentment, my ability to access connection is wide open. And there's not a lot of things that can take my choice away as to how I want to feel in any given situation.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does.
I think another, biochemically, I think another important element of connection is gratitude, and what gratitude does is actually alters our brain in a way that creates an ability to be more right side brain, more curious, more creative. And so when I practice gratitude, I actually practice growing a part of my brain that cultivates the essence of connection.
Absolutely. With that said, something that's been on my mind these last few weeks, and I just decided to do. We're going to do gratitudes in the middle of episodes from now on.
Oh.
I think. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's too important of an element, and it's easy for people to check out, and I think it's important to do. So.
Okay.
It's time for my favorite part of this. Okay.
Here, I'm sorry, but I'm not messing with it after this time. I want to define it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I have something here. It says gratitude is an emotion that reflects our deep appreciation for what we value, what brings meaning to our lives, and what makes us feel connected to ourselves and others.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'm just not sure that I've ever. I like to define things for myself.
Yeah.
I think it's important.
You understand that. The emotional lexicon, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I'll speak to that real quick before we do the gratitudes.
Sure.
I had a conversation with Chad Top from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. He runs the Wakamo social detox out there, the program.
Yeah,
he started. He started it. I guess it'd be about 11 years ago now. I was there for the 10th anniversary anyway, so yeah, it'd be about 11 years. It's an amazing program. But it was there that I first saw that feeling wheel that you talk about with the emotional lexicon. So I've been talking to Chad about coming onto the show. I'm really excited to have him on. But he's a hell of a guy. He runs a hell of a program. And for me personally, he's kind of a beacon of, the beginning of me getting my head out of my ass, for lack of a better term. So, I relapsed after I was there, but the fundamentals stuck with me. And I was saying to him, I had helped make that feeling wheel, and I might have told you about that for the emotional lexicon.
And I was saying to him, it's the one thing that I wish I understood the importance of at the time that I learned. Everything else just kind of clicks when it needs to click. That's the one thing that I wish I would have paid a lot more attention to at the time, because I think it would have made a big difference. I mean, I am where I am and all that, and I'm happy and proud to be here, but I think it would have made a big difference on the timeline had I really understood the importance of emotional lexicon at the time. So I've asked him to send me a picture of it, and you and I are going to do an episode when I do get it. So
cool. Yeah,
right, yeah,
sounds good.
So,
yeah. Okay, so
right.
we can definitely put a pin in that. There's another little thing I wanted to go on about.
You can do it if you want to. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah.
Well, I just think it's important to understand that, I talked a little bit about joy, and I think one thing that I didn't add is that joy is extremely frightening, and because if we allow ourselves to feel joy, I think somewhere in our mind we have this like defense mechanism that says disaster's coming. You know what I mean? And so that's why it's a beautiful place to be when we can appreciate it. But if we don't have that self-awareness and access, yes, exactly. And living in that space of when's the shoe gonna drop? I don't want to live that way. To me, that's a prison. And so I think it's very important to understand connection being an outlet of vulnerability to be able to mitigate that feeling of I'm not enough or that the shoe is going to drop. And we, tragedy is going to happen, trauma is going to happen in our lives. I'm much better equipped to navigate those happenings now that I have a better understanding of both my emotional lexicon, my self-awareness, my self-worth, self-respect, and self-esteem, and I understand the medium of connection being such an important avenue to access vulnerability, to release the pressure of what that is and how I experience it. And
absolutely.
Okay, so there we go.
Okay.
Pin in it.
Well, that makes it my time for my favorite part of the show. That's the Daily Gratitudes thing. All right,
Today's Daily Gratitudes are brought to you by Revolution Recovery, helping men recover and become their best selves through support and treatment. They've been there and they understand.
All right, what you got for us today?
You know
It's
what?
weird to do it in the middle, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm first and foremost, my beautiful family, always number one.
Always. Yeah.
My little girls and my amazing wife, and my mom lives in the basement, and that's cool too, to have her around and hanging out with. She gets to hang out every day with her grandkids, and if I was a good grandparent, that would be just amazing. So my family. I am super grateful for all of the loneliness I've experienced, for all of the pain I've experienced, the struggle, the trauma, everything that it's taken to get to where I am. Because as you were talking about, hey, it's really difficult to get to that place, to have the self-awareness to understand that. And I would not be able to understand any of this. I wouldn't be able to be on this show. I wouldn't be able to talk about any of these things that I talk about if I didn't go through the things that I went through. So I'm extremely grateful for the difficult times I've had in my life.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Great. And for myself, we'll change up how I do the gratitudes. Obviously, we're not going to end the show right now. So my gratitudes, I'm going to copy you. I really am thinking about it right now. And I'm thankful for your family. No, I'm just kidding. I'm thankful for all the strife, right? It's just, it's some, that's quite the statement, but it's true. At the end of the day, we've, I've been through some insanity, and it just it's at the forefront of my mind right now because of this appearance I'm going to have on Hard Knocks Talks. I've only ever been interviewed once before, right? So
really?
I've only ever told, yeah. Well, Scott from No New Friends did it, right? It was a hell of an interview too, but I've never been interviewed to tell my story like that, and I'm thinking about it now, going, oh wow, that's a story, right? So I'm really glad for all those moments. I'm super glad for the connection that I've been able to make with all my old friends, yourself included. Since I came back to Calgary, and how that support, it's turned into a support network that's absolutely mind-blowing at times. So
yeah, it is. Yeah. And it's become something that I don't know if something I never envisioned. That's for sure. And right. It's interesting to have to be able to impact and influence people that I didn't even know existed on the planet.
Right.
Getting questions from Raleigh, North Carolina, whoa. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So that
I know we got a random message the other day I shared on the Facebook wall. Somebody from your part of the world again, from Vancouver area, or maybe it's the island, but yeah, she said I absolutely love it. She's been telling her kids, "You are loved," over and over and over again all night. And it's you saw that message or that post, right? It was something else, right? It's just like, wow, that's a reason for doing it, right?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I think Tori something or other. Thank you for that message, Tori. That was beautiful and very, very much appreciated. So
yeah.
Speaking of messages, I got some questions, my man.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Better get my reflex hat on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So the first question is from our celebrity on the show here, right? Tammy from Brockville, Ontario. You might remember her from episodes 92 and 92.5. She came on and told this story about her daughter Brittany, who's still in active addiction. Still, that struggle still goes on. She's writing a blog now on the website as well. If you go to the website and look for, if you search Tammy or Shattering Voices, something. There's a whole blog section there. I can't remember the name of it right now, and I really should, but that's not. Yeah, that was horrible, right? Well, I wasn't planning on doing that, and it just popped into my head, and I was like, oh, crap, here it goes, right? But yeah, we have a blog section there from her. Myself, I've got a couple posts. There's another an anonymous fellow, Darcy, who's in on it as well. And we've got some more people coming on, including therapists, including memorial moms who, I have much reverence for, and all sorts of different angles on addiction. So check it out, guys.
Cool.
Anyway, Tammy from Brockville says, how do I practice detachment from addiction as a coping skill while maintaining connection with my loved one?
Oh, how do I practice detachment?
So put this in context, right, for you and maybe you and the listeners most definitely. This is because her daughter's still in active addiction, and she's having a hard time, and she's done everything. We've heard Tammy's story. I mean, that was an epic interview, right? I mean, it just went on forever, and for good reason too. She's getting to a point where she feels like it's going to end one way or the other, and she needs to prepare for that. And
yeah, that's a really tough spot to be in.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I would use those words, although we're probably going to talk about the same thing. I don't think I would focus on the practice of detachment. To me, that is disconnect. And anytime we disconnect, I believe we're inviting shame and all of its lonely components in there. So I think as a coping skill, it's more about developing the intrinsic resources, understanding who we are as people within that. And it's like, I love how Dr. Lisa says, like, I am not my cancer. Well, to be almost removing ourselves, but we can still see the field, and so, like, again, choosing what I take personal, which is a really difficult thing to do when it becomes a parent and a child, but and understanding that they're not doing this to me, they're doing this in spite of a love for me, which must be a difficult thing, and I think, like, maintaining the connection is about building the foundation of myself to a place that I can be in that space without taking things on, having very firm and clear boundaries while still participating in the active love, and that does not include what do we call it when we
enabling?
Thank you. Enabling is not an act of love. That is done for ourselves, and it just is a nasty little. I shouldn't say little. It's a nasty thing to get into. So, like, so I don't think detachment. It's an understanding that I am an agent of love and peace in this. I'm not taking on things that aren't mine, but I am willing to support the things that you're going through. And I think, like, for me, it's probably easier said than done. I'm a counselor. I've been practicing this for a long time, so I know how to not have somebody's issues be mine. And I know how to be in this space without taking those things on. And so, like, so again, it goes back to, like, self-esteem, self-worth, self-respect. Where is that at? And then leading into our values. And so really it's about being concretized in my own self so that I can I can be in that space without absorbing, what it actually is, and so, and then it's like love, support, The saying we say every day on the show, "You are loved," like you said. I think like that kind of communication, giving whatever that family member is, or loved one, the sense of connection, of belonging,
as best you can. Anyway,
right? Especially,
right?
absolutely. And so, like, we want to stay away from
And
judgment.
as best you're capable of as well, I should say. I mean,
Yeah, and like everyone's at different places in the idea of self evolution, but like I want to look at the things that I don't want to do, which are judgment, shame, projected fear, projected insecurity, projected and I wanted to say shame again because I went to this place of like I don't feel like I'm enough to handle this, so I'm gonna like take it out in anger or disconnect on my loved one, and like so like always knowing that, and I think we talked about this a while ago, like coming to a place that that they may not make it is a really difficult situation to be in our own space, and so I like to always. I mean, how many times have we seen somebody pass? It's like I always find myself coming to a place of like, wow, okay, their suffering is over, and that gives me peace. And then the other thing is like, if I did my best to like cultivate connection, and using connection as a medium of love, then that person gets to pass knowing that I did everything I could to love that person the best I could, and it's a really awful place, but at least we can find some peace in knowing that we did our best, and that we will continue to do our best for the rest of our lives, and we will use whatever we've learned from this to honor that individual that has passed. And so, and it's just a really hard space to be in, Tammy. Like, and I wish that there was a magic button we could push to make everything better, but that's just not how it works. So I don't think we want to detach from anything. I think we want to concretize in what we are, and maybe that creates a sense of detachment as a byproduct. But I don't think it's the focus. I think that we need to it's like trauma. Like it has to become part of us, or else it becomes all of us.
Yeah.
And so I worry that if we detach from it, it actually engulfs us outside of our awareness, and we'll never find peace, and we'll never find reverence.
Yeah. Well said, man. Well said. So I just want to take a quick minute and let you know about a new sponsor of ours, Rosecrest Recovery Services. You might remember Rich Johnson from an episode just recently about interventions, and he was the interventionist, of course, right? So he's come on as a sponsor, and they don't just do interventions. They do family case management, treatment placement. Treatment placement is a free courtesy service, and reaching out is a free and completely confidential. So give them a shout, guys. You can reach them at 615-484-8792 or email at info@rosecrestrecoveryservices.com. Remember, they lead men and women to a life of recovery. Thanks for listening. Now back to the show. We'll move on to the next one, and I hope that answers it for you, Tammy. You got my direct line. You can always talk to me or drop a follow-up question. I know she's got one for next week too, so we'll definitely play that because Tammy's she's the original Warrior Love. I think she was the first mom that I did those interviews with.
I think
As a matter of fact,
yeah.
I'm almost sure she is. Yeah, right. So, and she's been following the show from the very beginning. So she's quite the incredible woman. Anyway, thank you for that, Tammy.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, of course you can.
Just to the listeners, if you send a question in, it'll get read. We have a bit of a queue happening, and so I just want to reassure people that if it's not read in the next episode, it will get read. We have it.
We're only about one episode behind right now. Not behind, but in the queue, right?
Yeah.
So, if you don't hear it, you'll hear it in the next one most likely.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
So,
yeah. So I don't want people to feel unheard.
And that said, if you're listening and you do want to send a question, ashesawesamepodcast@gmail.com. You can hit me on any one of the socials. You can go to the RBK page. You can ask it there. You can ask me on the Ashes to Awesome page, or on the Ashes to Awesome Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn,
Twitter,
Facebook, Twitter, wherever you see the logo, you can ask a question. Yeah. The other thing you could do, actually, Spotify. You can drop your question in the comments underneath the Spotify play there. So, anyway, next question. Rebecca in Helena, Montana says, "When life becomes a relentless cycle of monotony and hardships, it's easy to lose sight of our goals and aspirations. How can individuals reignite their sense of purpose and motivation even when faced with seemingly insurmountable obstacles?"
Very good question. And I think we kind of
Huge
talked a
question.
bit about that today. I mean, uh, we have to start with those two elements of courage and hope.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I've talked in the past about like, it's funny, the word monotony, like, it is such a, it makes life bland. You know what I mean? Like, and so like, when we get into a monotony and hardship, and that's my life world, I have to reframe that. Like, so if
And so yeah,
everything is
perception's definitely an element of that, right?
absolutely, and like that's
Yeah,
one of
yeah,
our things we have in our locus of control, and so I want to so monotony is an opportunity for change.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Hardship is an opportunity for strength and building, and always understanding that the paradox is an essential part of spiritual growth. And
yeah,
so, I think that she says we lose sight of our goals and our aspirations. Well,
mhm,
if we've lost sight of them, then why don't we slow down and why
yeah,
don't we find that vision again? So this is why like let's go to hope. Even if
mhm,
we're in hopelessness, we know hope exists because I'm hopeless,
yeah,
and one implies
yeah,
the other. I wouldn't know one without the other.
yeah,
So that means I have access to hope, so I can move into that space by just, like I said, setting. Let's take the big goals of like, hey, I'm going to be the president of the United States, which is possible for me, but and turn it into I'm going to go for a walk. Little
yeah,
things like, and I say like start to build a structure of new things you want to try and start trying out, seeing what fits, seeing what doesn't, seeing what and explore. And so I think like we reigniting the idea of curiosity and exploration. And I think if we can start to do that, life becomes a brand new adventure. Like so, if we were in monotony and hardship, we've lost essence and we've lost ignite. So we've lost purpose and motivation. And how do we get
ah,
that back? Purpose is an active meaning. And so to give my life purpose, I spend more time with my kids. Why? Because kids are my meaning. My kids are my everything. And
yeah,
so
of course. Yeah,
and I can find it in anywhere. Any relationship I have, anyone that I admire or that I believe to be inspiring. This is why I like these podcasts. They help inspire me to be more. And so whatever it is, and if you don't know what what you like, what you're into, what gives you fire, try things on, and that will break the monotony. And hardship is it's not fun, but it's part of the experience of life. And like I don't want to miss out on anything as long as I'm here. I got one life to live, and I want to be as human as possible in that time. And I want to experience, like when I went back to university, I wanted to be a poor student. I wanted to experience that, and I definitely did. Like I was poor as poor gets. And like but and it was like it was cool. I was going to class. I had a backpack. I was
yeah,
on campus. Like and I was in my 30s, man, and it was so fun. And then again in my 40s.
yeah,
And so and every obstacle, there's no such thing as insurmountable. I don't believe we only put that
okay,
on there to almost talk ourselves out of making it possible.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so all obstacles are an opportunity for change.
okay, okay.
Okay.
Um, I hope that helps, Rebecca. Again, drop us a line if you want to follow up on that. Most certainly we'll get to it. I mean, I think it was, yeah, find some inspiration, I guess, right? Find something, right? Cecile in Pierre, South Dakota says, in the midst of our struggles, self-doubt and negativity can take a toll on our mental well-being. From your experiences, how can someone cultivate a more positive mindset and build resilience, especially when faced with the setbacks that make them question their worth? Almost a double-up question here, but
Yeah, I mean,
kind of
um,
brings it all together question, even if you want to look at it that way, right? But yeah.
yeah. So like, I think it's a natural. I think doubt is a natural part of process.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see like when I question my worth, I'm doubting my
Yeah.
worth, and so what doubt is an asset. I don't believe it's a deficit. I think it is a indication of extreme care. And so if I'm questioning my worth, then that means I
Yep.
care about my worth. And so that's an
Okay. Yep.
opportunity for me to invest in that worth and start to do
Yep.
the things again, like find the things you love to do, find the things that inspire you, find the things that fire you up, Find the things that make you feel alive, and most of all, share it. Be in connection with people. Don't keep these things to ourselves, because when we put the power of word or pen to what we're experiencing, it takes on a whole new meaning when it's externalized. And so like when we have something, it's funny the way the human's experience works, because when we have something negative within our being and we hold it in, it festers and turns into something nasty. And so it's something we need to communicate to disempower it. When we have something beautiful happening, if we keep it in, it loses its power, and once we externalize it, it starts to cultivate growth and connection. So again, it is kind of a piggyback, but self-doubt, negativity are a choice, I think, and although they imply, if I'm in a place of negativity, I'm in a deficit lens. I know for a fact. So the one thing I love to do is use the lens of beauty. If I put the lens of beauty on and see the world as a beautiful place, it kind of just pushes negativity out to the side. Like, it's not really part of that component. And then something happens within myself that propels me into like the state of courage that I need to be vulnerable and access connection. Like, but you're right. It does take it takes a toll on our mental well-being, which creates a high propensity for entering into a state of loneliness, which is a very difficult place to navigate, but essential in understanding how important life is and the spice that life can be.
Yeah, great answer. Great answer. I guess that takes us there, right?
Yeah.
That's a show. Yeah. I was kind of expecting something else there all of a sudden.
Well, we usually give gratitudes now, right? So
yeah, I know. It's kind of weird, right? Yeah, I don't know. It's awkward. I'll figure out something though. I'll figure out a way to end these episodes with a bit more grace, right? I am looking forward to some of the things we've been talking about coming up. Some other series to do. I quite like this format.
Yeah,
where we can take some time and really deep dive into something, right?
Yeah, and you know what? Like, there's been some pretty good feedback.
Yeah.
So I think I like the idea of like exploring different parts of existence in a series-based way, and I think
with a bit of structure and some really deep dive into it, right?
Yeah.
So it expands. You're able to expand something like, say, emotional lexicon, just because that's in the top of my head right now.
Yeah.
There's a whole series to be done on that, and really understanding, like to really get your head around that, right?
Yeah.
So most certainly, we'll figure out what the next one is here before it's time to record the next one. So.
That one's like a Dostoevsky novel.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But and again, like, well, you know what? Let's we'll talk about doing this series. But to me, it's the one thing. Had I known that, because it gives you so much power and freedom, understanding what those things mean. So maybe that will be the next one we get into, right? So we'll talk
it
about
is,
it
and like,
see how
I think.
it goes. Yeah.
I know I put a lot of importance on defining things for ourselves, because I believe that when we define things for ourselves, we are creating a sense of choice that gives us access to a new freedom. And so I'm choosing to see the world based on this definition that I've created for myself. And within that, I've concretized myself in my own life world and accessed freedom to potential and expanded my horizon of understanding. So it's just a growth.
Absolutely, right. So I just had a couple of great title ideas coming to my head. So
good stuff. Let's talk. Yeah,
we'll talk about that when I hit stop. All right. So
you are loved.
Excuse me. Hey guys, please keep doing what you're doing, and I didn't throw you in as a gratitude, but you always are a gratitude to the listeners. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. The numbers keep climbing. It's working. If you see the logo, drop a like, comment, share. Do whatever it is you got to do to keep helping us out, because we do appreciate it. Every time you do these things, you're getting me a little bit closer to living my best life. My best life is to make a living spreading the message. The message is this: if you're in active addiction right now, today could be the day. Today could be the day that you start that lifelong journey. Reach out to a friend, reach out to a family member, call into detox, go to a meeting, do whatever the hell it is you need to do to get that journey started, because it is so much better than the alternative. And if you are the loved one of somebody who's suffering an addiction right now, just taking the time to listen to our mini series here, if you could just take one more minute out of your day and text that person, let them know they're loved. Use the words. That little glimmer of hope just might be the thing that brings them back.
My body's getting cold, my life is running low. Feel me falling, my life is running out. I pray I make it now, but if I don't, it will be okay. I'll find you another day, and I'm not scared to go. It will be okay. I'll find you another way, and I'm not scared to go, because when